million for one of the top 5 running backs in the league with only half of that guaranteed is not that bad.
No, I mean, compared to the Carolina running backs contract that just kind of set the market at $16 million a year, Derek, they kind of got off a little cheap with him. As a hard runner, and I use a comparison to a John Riggins or Earl Campbell with a little bit of speed that this guy has. I mean, these guys eventually they take a lot of shots, they wear down their speed decreases. But I mean, Earl Campbell for that 9 years was probably that he played football was probably the best running back of all time. John Riggins was unbelievable, one of the top 10 running backs of all time when he played for the Jets and the Redskins. So, I mean, you're right, Jim. I mean, here's a guy that he's still going to be young enough. He should be okay. They got a great offensive line in front of him. And as I said, I mean, I think any good running back could run really well behind this line. Tannehill, of course, is like, this is the ace in his pocket. This protects him. You give that little play action fake to Henry. The safeties have to come up to meet this guy because he's so big and strong and fast. And there you got Tannehill's one of the best long throwers in the league on play action because of Derrick Henry in that offensive line. So I think it was a good deal all the way around.
Absolutely. And the price is right. I mean, you're talking about a guy who last year led the NFL in rushing with 1,540 yards. He's definitely one of the top 3 or 4 backs in the league. And his contract comes out at $12.5 a year, which makes him the fifth highest running back in the league paid.
Right.
So he's behind, you want to say, okay, McCaffrey's better, Elliott's better, but he's behind Bell and David Johnson, who Henry's better than both of them. So if you're asking me, Tennessee got a steal of a deal on this one.
I mean, you could make the argument that Derrick Henry is the best back in the league overall, period. I mean, you could make that. McCaffrey, I mean, McCaffrey can catch the ball out of the backfield. Zeke can catch the ball out of the backfield, not as good as McCaffrey. But, I mean, to dominate a running game, to go into New England and destroy that defense like they did, one of the best defenses in the league, and to run for almost 400 yards in 2 games or something was ridiculous. He's the one, that offensive line, and Derrick Henry is the one to put the Titans where they were last year.
Yeah, and that's a good signing for them. Moving over to someone who didn't sign, Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott did not sign. He's gonna play on the franchise tag of $31.4 million. So it's not like he's broke or anything, but this is a little bit surprising because according to the reports that came out, back when they were negotiating contract, Dallas was offering him a contract that came out to $34.5 million a year with $100 million guaranteed. And he turned it down. And according to reports, they ain't talked in a while. It's been kind of let it go. So I don't really know what this will lead for Dak Prescott. But I'm going to tell you, if you're Dak Prescott, you better hope 2 things. First of all, you better hope you don't get hurt this year. Because if you get hurt and you can't play, your value goes down. And you better hope if you do stay healthy that you put up good numbers. Because if you have a bad season, you cost yourself a lot of money. And I don't know what Dallas is going to do now. I mean, my gut tells me that Jerry Jones is the type of guy that gets really nervous when it comes to losing his players. Like he wanted to make sure he didn't lose Cooper. He wanted to make sure he never had to worry about Elliott. Personally, if I was Jerry Jones after this year, I would let him go. I would just because how much money? I know it's not about his ability. It's just that I'm just speaking as if I was the owner. At some point, $34.5 million is a lot of money per year with $100 million guaranteed. I'm not paying him Pat Mahomes money. That's me. You might. Right. I'll find out that in a second, but I'm not giving him $40 million a year because he's not as good. So for me, I think he'll still re-sign with Dallas next year just because Jerry Jones gets nervous and then he just digs into his wallet. And you would pay him $40 million a year? You would give him Pat Mahomes money?
The thing that was the biggest block in this contract was the amount of years. And that's what everything fell apart at. Dallas wanted him to go, I think it was 5 years. He wanted to go only 4 years. And the reason for that is so he could come back and re-sign another contract while he's still in his prime. And I mean, as far as ability goes, Jim, I mean, he threw for 4,902 yards last year. The man can throw the football. He is a playmaker. He may not be Patrick Mahomes. He may not be Wilson. He may not be a top 4 quarterback, but he's in the discussion of the top 8, 10 quarterbacks in the league. And to find somebody that good to come in and play, that can make plays, that can throw for almost 5,000 yards and make an impact on the offense is going to be hard to replace somebody like this. I think Dallas could have got away with paying him what he's making right now if they went 4 years instead of 5. And that's where the big breakdown was. And I understand Dallas wants to, to stretch the contract out, maybe pay him at the lower end. I think Dak and his agent are looking for the re-sign. If everything works out, where they re-sign and he's still.
Well, let me throw some numbers at you to kind of get a feel for where you feel, and I'll tell you where I feel on where he is as far as the upper echelon of QBs. Okay, because Dallas had offered him, like I said, $34.5 million. It would have been a year if he took the deal. Now, Carson Wentz, who was taking the team to the Super Bowl until he got hurt, he was having a spectacular year. His contract gets him $32 million a year. So that's less than Dak would have got. Jared Goff, who's gone to a Super Bowl, his contract pays him $33.5 million a year. Do you think Dak Prescott is better than both of those guys?
Personal opinion, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, personal opinion, I think, yes. Wentz didn't bring him to Super Bowl. He didn't do that. He got hurt.
You were going to go anyway.
Well, we don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure, Jim. We really don't. I mean, he probably, let's say possibly, yes, but he didn't do it. Then when he became starting quarterback, and I know the Eagles had a lot of injuries and all that stuff, and he made the playoffs, and then he didn't do it. Carson Wentz is a very good quarterback. I'm not taking nothing against Carson Wentz. As far as Goff goes, he did all that when he had a pretty good running back behind him that was tearing up the league at the time. So the Rams' offense was run, play, action, pass, sort of like the Titans was last year. So Goff kind of fell off a little bit last year. He may fall off a little bit more this year if they play. I think Dak is better than Wentz as a playmaker. I think Wentz is a real good quarterback. I don't take nothing. I would love to have him as my starting quarterback if I could. But if I had a choice, I would take Dak over.
You see, where I come in on this is I put him right about the same talent level as them. Like, I don't put him personally that much better than them. So for me, $34.5 million a year to me is around where he should be, because that's a little bit more than them, but still a ways down from where Mahomes is, which is where, let's not forget too, he turned this down way before Pat Mahomes signed his deal. So he didn't even know Pat Mahomes was going to get $40 million. And I can never seem to understand how the Cowboys can even sign these players looking at the cap. I mean, look in the last 16 months. The Cowboys have signed Lawrence to $105 million, Cooper to $100 million, Elliott to $90 million, Jalen Smith $64 million, and Collins, the offensive lineman, to $50 million. Where in the world do they get this money? There's a cap in football. I don't understand. Do the Cowboys not have a cap and everybody else does? Because the Giants don't have 5 players on their team worth $60 million or more. So I never can understand where the Cowboys seem to always come up with this money for these players.
Well, the 49ers were excellent at this at one time way back when. They have a way of tailing off the contract. There's ways to fool with the numbers. This is money, a contract. It's not guaranteed. Some of these instances. But there's a way to play with the numbers, Jim, where you can stay underneath the cap and still sign big contracts.
They were going to pick Jamal Adams, and then they were going to try to sign him. I mean, how so much money? I mean, I don't understand it, but this is why agents get paid what they do. And we have seen this all season. We have seen agents make mistakes. We have seen Dalvin Cook come out and publicly say, I'm not going to play off of this, and then find out a day later that his agent didn't inform him that if he didn't play, he delays his free agency and actually just hurts himself more. We saw another player have the same issue, and you got to ask yourself, I sure hope, because these guys, they take the advice of their agent. I sure hope his agent is right on this one. Like, I really hope his agent didn't give him bad advice, because this would not be the first time, and it happens in baseball and football, where a player thinks they're worth money, and then next season they wait, and then they don't get it. And then how many times does that happen in baseball? How many times we talked about the other day? Devontae Freeman, he waited. Now he wants a multi-year deal. He's so out of his own element of what he can get that his agent dropped him.
Yeah.
I hope that his agent's advice was right.
Well, a lot of times they get on social media so fast they don't even talk to their agent. They just express their feelings or express what they want before even talking to their agent. I mean, today, with this is the way it is with social media. If there was no social media, of course, he would be calling his agent, or his agent would be calling him the next day. But right away, they pop that out there, and they're not saying what exactly is true, because they don't know the terms like the agent knows, or whoever's representing him, whatever person's representing him. But there are players that have, Jim, in the past made a living off this. Revis was one of them. He played under tags almost his whole career, and he got as much money as he could each year, betting on his ability. There are players that are that good that they can do that. I don't know if Dak is that good at quarterback that he can make a living off that.
Right. Well, not to mention the fact that you have to factor in with the cap. The cap's a different situation, and not Justin, our Ranger Justin, but Cowboys Justin is here, and I'd like to see him tell us, what does he think about the fact that Dak thought he was worth more than $34.5 million? And as a Cowboy fan, do you want to see Dak back next year, or the fact that he turned down $100 million guaranteed? Or are you just done with him? Let him go. Because the one thing about the franchise tag, though, Mac, with any player, is with the franchise tag, a big chunk of that, if not all of that, counts towards your cap. It's not flexible like the other contracts. So it's not always in the situation that you can do that. I mean, if Dak Prescott comes back next year, right, and he's, when he comes back next year, if the Cowboys need to tag him, and the tag's going to cost them now, because the league dictates the tag value. If the tag's going to cost them $36 million, can they afford to have $36 million count completely towards that cap next year, as opposed to being strung out?
Well, I mean, it works, but it works for the team too, Jim, where they don't have to invest in big salaries. So, I mean, it works both ways. So you got this guy who's willing to play under a tag. It saves the team for signing him to a long-term contract when they're not absolutely sure if he's the guy they want around there too. They want to see him for another year or whatever it is, and that can be adjusted. I mean, in the case of Williams, there's two different caps. There was one for 16 point something, and then there was one for 18.1 million. And he was suing. He's filing agreements to get the higher cap on his contract, the 18.1. And you got to remember also Kirk Cousins. I mean, he went on. He did not sign. Washington didn't sign him to a long-term contract. He played under the cap. Ended up going to Minnesota, and he's a really, really rich man right now.
Yeah, he got guaranteed money, the whole thing.
Right. So it works both. I mean, it's a tool that anybody could use. It's just who uses it the best.
All right. So Justin, who's a Dallas fan, says he shouldn't have taken the offer. So I guess Justin has absolutely, no problem with paying him close to Mahomes' money, even though he's not as good as Mahomes. But that's okay.
Well, that's a fan, Jim.
Not really. No, I mean, I've seen fans say don't pay him. I've seen. Yeah. I mean, you've seen Jets Justin come out and say the hell with Jamal Adams. I mean, fans will go against the player if they feel that the player is not putting the best interests of the team at heart. I mean, you are what you are. But let me go down some other names we'll talk about. So, Shaq Barrett, they had a great season with Tampa Bay last year.
Yep.
He signed the franchise tag, but no long-term deal. Any surprise there? I mean, Barrett finally broke out last year, so he wants to cash in as much as possible. He's, so I mean, who knows what's going to happen to him? That's the only thing that's bad for some of these players, is that I wish the NFL would put a rule in where you could only tag the guy once.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, they don't have to play under the tag. And the thing about the tag is that once you're tagged as a franchise, the team can trade you. They have
you can't go somewhere else. You can't test the market.
No, I'm saying that right now, since they signed Barrett to the franchise tag, just like they did Williams, they are now become property of the team. If Tampa Bay wants to send him somewhere and trade him, if the team's willing to pick up that contract, they can do so. And it's the same thing with Williams with the Giants. Since he signed the tag, now the Giants can trade him for whatever they can get for him, as long as that other team.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying I'd like to see them change the rules in the next CBA and say that, listen, the rule is you can tag a guy once, and if he actually comes in and plays, you can't tag him the following year. So that someone like a Shaq Barrett or someone like a Dak Prescott, it gives in a sport like football, unlike baseball, where, no secret, you could get hurt and your career could be over in an instance. I mean, look at Cam Newton. Cam Newton was the MVP a few years back and signed for like pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Shaq Barrett, Dak Prescott. Imagine if you put them in a situation where they play on the franchise tag. So first of all, they won't hold out. This rule would help everybody. You tag them. If they play and don't hold out, you cannot tag them the next year. Now imagine if Dak Prescott and Shaq Barrett sign their tags, play this year, and then they can't be tagged again. So now they get to go out and offer their services everywhere and see how much money they can get. To me, that sounds fair.
Well, what happens if they go out there and they're not going to make as much money as they thought they were going to make under that franchise tag? Suppose Dak comes back next year and they say, okay, we'll give you just for example, we're going to give you $38 to $40 million as a tag. Suppose he goes out and says, listen, I'm not doing that. He goes to another team and says, hey, we'll sign you.
In my rule, they wouldn't be able to tag him at all.
I'm saying suppose they don't. Suppose that would be his offer. And then he goes out and he's not going to make as much money as he would have under the franchise tag, and no team's going to be willing to give him his contract. Then what? Does he
I never said that my rule was an automatic ticket. I'm just telling you that you see so many players are opposed to the franchise tag. This is a solution.
I heard that they were going to do 2 franchise tags. I heard there's an alternate franchise tag that they were going to supposedly what I was listening to before this
franchise tags now.
Right.
They franchise tag Dak Prescott next year again.
No, what I'm talking about is 2 different players, Jim. Mm-hmm. There was talk that the league was going to try and get 2 franchise tags where they could tag franchise. They could franchise tag Dak and they could franchise tag Cooper. Now, I don't know what happened to that, but they were talking about that before the.
That did pass. That where they can only. I don't think that passed. I think
no, but they were talking about that.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake Dallas made.
Terrible rule. Are we just going to let every NFL player? Where do the NFL players get rights? We're just going to let them all get tagged. I know what you're saying. You're saying the money on the tag is nice, but I'm telling you, it must not be that nice because every football player who gets tagged complains. So how can it be?
Because if they do get injured, that may mess up their career instead of going to a team and getting, $100 million guaranteed for 3 years, no matter what happens. So I understand that to a point. But, I wouldn't mind making $35 million in 1 year. That could probably take care of me for the rest of my life.
Be Dak Prescott for a minute, okay?
Right.
Or be the Dallas Cowboys for a minute, okay?
Right.
If the rule was that you can only tag a guy for 1 year, and after that, he's automatically a free agent. Unrestricted. Right. And you're talking to Dak Prescott about a contract, and you're saying, we're going to give you $34.5 million, $100 million guaranteed for 5 years.
Right.
Dak Prescott comes back and says, I only want 4 years, $37 million. I'll give you $37.4. You know that if you don't do that, he's going on the market next year. They probably give him that deal because they know that why bid with other people.
Or they draft a good quarterback out of college.
But that's not going to be 2-14. They're not getting Clemson guy next year.
I'm just saying. They go looking in free agency. They start looking in college. So
and then Dak Prescott goes and signs a $150 million guarantee deal with the New England Patriots, and the world goes on, and he gets paid anyway.
Exactly.
So,
but would Zach get that? That's the question. This doesn't just protect the team, Jim. It does protect the player in a lot of instances. And like I said, Revis he wanted the franchise tag. He loved the franchise tag. He
wanted money, the whole thing.
Exactly. So, I mean, there you go. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. I'll tell you the biggest mistake Dallas made this year was signing Zeke before they signed Dak. And that's the biggest mistake they made.
Dallas, I mean, Washington, as Alexander brought up, they tagged Cousins twice, and they were going to do it a third time until he got that. So, at some point, enough is enough with the tags already. Listen, NFL guys, I'm with you. You need an agent, call me. We're going to fight this as a team. We are going to make sure that the NFL cannot tag you more than once. Enough with the tags already. Let me tell you something. If it wasn't for if the Giants didn't have the tag option, Leonard Williams wouldn't be here.
But you want to know something? The player has to sign that tag. They're not saying you're tagged. I mean, wait a minute. Dak Prescott could say, "Listen, I'm not being tagged this year.
I'm just going to sit home."
He has a choice, right?
No, nobody's sitting home for $31 million, Matt. Come on.
I'm trying to tell you, he does have a choice. It's not like you have to play under that tag. Right, that's your choice.
You're absolutely right. He could just say, I don't need the money, and he could go hang home and watch reruns of Golden Girls and Sanford and Son or whatever he likes to watch, and he could just do that. But I don't know many people who are going to do that.
And wait for next year. I know somebody, Le'Veon Bell did it. And I'm telling you now.
He came back. He didn't get the pay he thought he was going to get. He got less money, and he looked not that great last year, which part of it is the Jets, I understand. And if Bell doesn't look good this year, he's going to be cut, and he's never going to get close to the contract even the Jets gave him.
Hey, you got a bit. Hey, this is all about you, man. You're free to do whatever you want to do. I think Dak was smart taking the franchise tag and see what he does, and then he can take other offers from other teams. And there you go.
Well, no, because Dallas will franchise him again because Jerry Jones is like that, so he won't even get.
That's possible. That's possible. And then Dak can say, after with that $35 million, I'm sitting out this year.
He's not. We both know he's not going to say that. Le'Veon Bell is just in a different cloud space with his head. He went and tried to be a rapper and put on like 80 pounds, and then it's a whole different story.
Did you ever hear that song he rapped?
No, I mean a little bit. Terrible. I don't have time for it. I don't even like regular rap. That with people who are talented, because it's not as good as it was to the rap I grew up listening to. The rap I grew up listening to in the 80s and 90s, like Wu-Tang and stuff, that was rap. I don't know what these dudes are doing today. They got orange colored hair and they call him Tech 9 or whatever. And the dude, I don't know. I can't do it. The guy looked like a lollipop when he was singing. I can't. So it's different. So a couple other names. So Kenyon Drake, running back for the Cardinals, was slapped with the transition tag earlier this year. Reports are they're not close on a long-term deal, but the deadline they have until July 22nd. They need to find a way with Kenyon Drake to get this deal done because Kenyon Drake, they let David Johnson go. Right. Well, he's the running back.
Right. That's true. But I mean, listen, they got a heck of a passing game right now. They got a lot of speed at wide receiver. They got good hands. They got a quarterback that can run with the ball, throw on the run. I mean, listen, there's a lot of running backs out there right now that they could pick up. So
when you let David Johnson go, don't you kind of feel like you committed to Drake? So pay them.
Right. Listen, I agree with you, but it's a business, Jim. I mean, this is what it is. If you really believe that Drake is a top 5-10 running back, definitely sign him. If you don't believe that, there's plenty of running backs out there.
Oh, especially in next year's class. Right. Although there's one less today because Derrick Henry is now off of that list for next year.
That's right.
AJ Green does not sign his franchise tag yet. So there you go. You want to talk about a player that might not sign his franchise tag, you're looking at AJ Green. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this. If I'm AJ Green, I'm looking at the landscape. You got a nice new quarterback who could chuck the ball downfield. Maybe you want to play, but maybe on the flip side of it, AJ Green is pulling a Calvin Johnson and he's looking at the landscape and he's like, we're probably going to go 2-14 this year. Maybe I'll just sit this one out. But AJ Green has a long history of injuries, and I don't know if AJ Green sitting out is a smart idea because AJ Green needs to put a full season on tape so he can get paid because AJ Green's getting long in the tooth. You know what I mean? AJ Green's getting
that man's been injury prone for most of his career. I mean, he's great when he's healthy. He's great. I don't know. Maybe he takes a year off and gets really healthy instead of playing hurt all the time. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what team would really be anxious to sign him if he doesn't play this year. So we'll see.
Not at a big deal. I mean, if the reports were that Cincinnati was trying to they were discussing a short-term deal.
Right.
If I'm AJ Green, you know, as much I have nothing against Joe Burrows. I mean, I think he's going to be the goods, but it's going to take some time to get talent around him. AJ Green's getting into that middle of the road here, like the crossroads. If I'm him, he probably wants to go finish it out somewhere else to try to win some games. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. I mean, he knows it's going to be a while before Cincinnati's competitive.
He doesn't have 4 or 5 more years to wait while they build the franchise around Joe Burrows. We talked about Kansas City, got it done. Great deal for Kansas City. I mean, granted, in 2 years, it's going to be Mahomes, Jones, and a bunch of who know what's, but you know, at least 2 people are happy, right? I mean,
yeah, they got a big tight end coming up for a signature there too. So, and a couple good receivers. So it depends on who they want to hold on to and who they don't.
Somebody's not going to get paid. Somebody's going somewhere else. I don't know
That's
who.
The truth.
It's not going to be Chris Jones because Chris Jones got paid. One thing I was surprised about today, and I thought the Giants should have got in on him, and reports were that Jacksonville had an offer and didn't pull the trigger. Jacksonville slapped a franchise tag, which hasn't been signed yet, on Yannick Nagatu, who is so unhappy with Jacksonville that he's not interested in signing it. And I believe him. You talk about a guy that's not going to sign it. I don't think he's going to sign it. And they had an offer today on the table. Now, I don't know what the details of that offer was. They haven't come out yet. But they didn't pull the trigger. Now, I don't know what has told Jacksonville that this guy's gonna play this year.
No, he's been all year. He's been wanting to get out of there. He's been talking about a bunch of teams he wants to go to. So he's very unhappy right now in Jacksonville. He's another guy that's in social media all the time. And is that the type of person when he gets unhappy that he turns to social media and starts complaining all the time? Is that who you want on your team? I think that's why he didn't get as many offers as he should have, because he's a great defensive lineman.
I thought maybe the Giants would step in and try to trade for him. Why not?
I don't know.
Or the Jets. Why not the Jets? We talk about, so every time I feel like, and we're right, we got to get more Jet love. The Jets need the defensive end just as much as the Giants.
Yeah,
so,
no doubt.
I don't know why either one of them didn't step in. You know, Tyrone says the cap's going to go up, but Tyrone, not that much. I mean, not as much to pay everybody. Kansas City can't pay everybody. They probably will pay the tight end. See, the thing about it, though, is the one good thing is Mahomes has enough talent that if the defense can be average, even if it's just average, and if they could keep the tight end, who he loves, you could plug in a lot of different wide receivers. He's a lot like Brady. Just plug in guys who have speed and can catch, and, you know, he'll be all right. You know,
well, slow down on the Brady comparison. He's only been playing for 2 years. So
no, I'm saying I feel like he doesn't need to have top flight wide receivers with that arm. You know what I mean? I feel like he could get B guys.
Well, Jim, there's been a lot of great quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that have been very talented, but didn't have the team around them so they could win the Super Bowl. So, I mean, not that Mahomes is not a special quarterback. He's only been in the league 2 years. There's so many quarterbacks that have gone through this league with a lot of talent on average teams that haven't been able to put it together. Right now, Kansas City has one of the best overall teams in the league, period. I mean, I think there's a lot of quarterbacks, top quarterbacks, that would have went to the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs last year. I really believe that.
Wow, that's a nice statement right there. I don't know.
Yeah, I really believe that.
Now you're starting to.
Yeah, I believe that. I think Jackson would have went to the Super Bowl. I think that I really believe that. I think Jackson won with the Super Bowl with Kansas City. I think that Tannehill won to the Super Bowl with Kansas City.
No.
I think George. I think that Rodgers would have went to the Super Bowl with Kansas City. They have unbelievable skill positions at the wide receiver, tight end. They got a good running game, and they got one of the greatest coaches in football history. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good quarterbacks that have won with the Super Bowl.
Wow, that you're devaluing Mahomes on the air.
I don't think I'm the.
But basically said he was replaceable by multiple.
Oh, yes, he is. He was. You don't believe
on this one.
You don't believe that Watson with
No.
Houston.
Mm-mm.
You don't think he could? 100%. I believe
as good as Mahomes.
He doesn't have the players Mahomes has. He doesn't have the coach Mahomes.
That's not true. He had Hopkins.
He didn't have a tight end like that, Jim. He had. Mahomes had 3 quality, fast wide receivers.
Right, but you
He
also
had-
realize that Mahomes had a Super Bowl with a defense that was average.
Well, I'll tell you, they picked up last year at the end of the year after Spags got a hold of their defense. That defense started playing some good ball.
They weren't the Ravens' defense.
No, that's for sure. But they were losing games until they upgraded their defense. They were in a 3-game losing streak last year until that defense turned it around. Of course, Mahomes was hurt too. That helped a little bit.
In my opinion, like Jackson and people like that for Baltimore, they had a really good roster last year, and he couldn't get it done with them. So I don't think he could have got it done with Kansas City because Baltimore had a better defense than Kansas City.
You don't think Drew Brees would have went to the Super Bowl with Kansas City's team? I don't
know because it's all about scheme too. They're different.
Exactly. You don't think Tom Brady could have went to the Super Bowl with the Kansas City?
I don't know. I mean, because it's scheme. That's almost like saying that every good quarterback who was in the league, well, Tom Brady was tearing it up with New England, would have done the same thing. I disagree because it's all about the system. Does Drew Brees get out of the pocket and throw on the run like Mahomes? Probably not. Let's start
definitely not
talking about 30-year-old Drew Brees. It's talking about 39-year-old Drew Brees.
Definitely agree with that. But could Drew Brees put it in a tighter spot than maybe Mahomes could have? Maybe Mahomes
it's not that I don't see your point. It's just that in all sports, I hate that argument.
I agree.
I hate when somebody says, "Oh, if Jacob deGrom was a Yankee, he would have won 22 games last year." I hate that argument. You don't know that. Everybody,
right?
There's a reason that everybody goes somewhere, and everybody's got a place in this world. And I don't know. I don't like that argument at all. So no, I don't. I don't figure and agree with that.
I don't like the statement that Mahomes, is the greatest quarterback and he's the only one that could have done that, because that is also that's unproven, and that I disagree with too.
No, all I'm simply saying is that Mahomes currently, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in football right now. I don't care about 3 years ago when Tom Brady was. I'm talking about right now.
As of last year, we'll see what happens.
That's right now. Just
right. Champion until I get knocked over.
We'll have the conversation again in 6 months and see if we still feel the same. Hopefully,
that's right.
Well, I got some other. Well, we'll stick on football for a little bit before we switch to baseball and the deGrom scare and the Yankee notes. We got a couple other things. So we talked about. Did you see the story about Kenny Stills getting arrested?
Yes.
So supposedly, Kenny Stills was out protesting, and it got a little bit out of control. And, with intimidation and yelling at cops. Let me explain to you, people. Everybody's looking on the news, and they see that in some places people are cursing and yelling and stuff. But when you cross a line, what you're not seeing on video is then they step in. And according to everything going on, the people he was with that were protesting were given the option to stop and leave. And they chose not to. So I really hope they drop the hammer on this guy, because I don't support anyone who goes out on the street and harasses good officers, because not all cops are bad cops. So I hope that they, hit them with the book, because nobody should go out trying to intimidate cops that you don't even know if they're bad. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He's booked in local time. He's charged. It's a felony too, by the way. He got charged with a felony. They
were participating in this thing at the Attorney General's house in Kentucky. I mean, that's one of the head guys in the legal system there. So that's where they were. That's where they were at when this happened. So I mean, that's strike one against you, man. You're going to the head lawyer of the state.
And
You're
they
going to
still weren't going to arrest him. It was when they started to try to intimidate
the police
and the House and the police and make
Right.
threats. That's what crossed the line.
And you know something, Jim, and I know that with today's climate, that everything is how do I want to say it? That it's explosive, it's combustible. But there's a lot of people that are doing the right thing. They're protesting peacefully. They're doing their thing. They're trying to send a message. You have guys though in there, like anywhere, like in a group of your friends, that's the guy that wants to start something. You know, he's the one that always wants some action going. And there's more so in a big group like that. And what I didn't agree with afterwards, especially, is when he tweeted out, "Sports are a distraction from the movement." And you know something?
See that tweet?
Yeah, I mean, that was tweeted right after that. Listen, sports can help movements. Sports are a place where people, first of all, people go there because they want to get away from life for a little bit. That's what they want to do. But there are famous athletes, from Muhammad Ali to Bill Russell to a lot of athletes that have gone out there and they participate in things even when they're playing, believe it or not. So when they got a week off or a day off or a practice off, they go into the community, they support the community, they get involved.
Well, there's a simple solution to this, like you brought up with the franchise tag. If Kenny Stills feels that sports are a distraction from what's going on, sit out. Don't play. Nobody's forcing you to play. In fact, we're going to bring this up in a minute. As far as I understand, the NFLPA is working on an agreement with football allowing players, if they don't want to play, to sit out. So if you feel that the movement is more important or is going to distract from football, is going to distract, take the year off and go do your cause. Like I've said, and I've said this a million times, you hit it right on the head. There are a great deal of protesters doing stuff the right way. And then there's that small group that goes out and gives it a bad name and takes away from what they're trying to get across with the message. And those Kenny Stills crossed over for a moment with a group into the bad group. And you got to stay out of that. That's not how you get justice. Nobody has forgot about everything, but this is not how the justice system works. I'm sorry, Alexander, it's not. Someone gets killed, right or wrong. You just don't go tear crap up until you get what you want. That's like a child throwing a fit. Like, I'm going to go and break stuff until I get, what are you, 9? I mean, that's not how it works. I mean, they will do it when they can do it. I mean, how many times in the justice system have people, and I don't want to get too political, but we're on it, so I'm going to mention it. How many times in the justice system have the police rush to judgment on somebody of color and arrested them and charged them with a crime, only to find out that later they didn't do it? That's terrible, right? So you can't ask them to go and do that now anytime someone's unhappy. You want change. That's change. You got to do the due process. Now, Kenny Stills, he's not going to go to jail for this.
No, hell no.
He's not going to go to jail. I mean, I know he got charged with a felony, but that's just the court systems trying to blow smoke to kind of make people nervous about what happens if you cross the line. Just like I don't think that you should, pour over signs. You know what I mean? And be charged with a hate crime. So he's not going to get charged with a felony. I haven't seen a video on this. Have you seen a video? No. So I haven't seen a video on it. So I don't really know what crossed the line. But all I could say to Kenny Stills is if you don't like the system or you don't want to play football, take off. It's okay. We're not going to be mad at you. There are plenty of people take on baseball, hockey, basketball. Take off and and go distract for the movement. I'm with you. Sports is a distraction. So I mean, for me, it's like gets me away from whatever stuff's going on in my life or anybody else's life for that matter. So it is what it is. So we'll see what happens with him. Justin don't like politics. Well, we'll see you tomorrow then. But sometimes politics come up, where you can't avoid it. So we cover it the least of pretty much any sports show out there. So
that's the truth.
we barely ever talk about it. So, so that came down today. Another thing that came down, surprisingly, it kind of ties into football, but also ties into baseball. Some people were surprised by it, but I wasn't, because I didn't see where it was going to happen. But Philadelphia announced that no fans were going to be allowed to the games. And I saw some people on Facebook were shocked by this, but I'm more shocked that they were shocked that that they even thought this was in question. I mean, am I missing something here? That sports have announced for months that fans are not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, if you read about it, Jim, they said it's going to be up state by state, district by district, the public health officials. All this is going to be taken into account. Some teams are going to try and do it. Some teams are going to try and do the fans thing if they can do it safely. I think Philly. I'm not surprised that any team has no fans in it this year because of how worried they are about the spread of the coronavirus. So, I mean, no, I wasn't surprised by it. Philadelphia shouldn't have been surprised by it, but they're saying that it's up to the local officials and the public health department. So you might see some fans in some stadiums.
I wouldn't be surprised if Florida let them, go watch.
Hey, they should open the gates.
Florida's just letting everybody do it.
Open the gates, sell home tickets, the heck with it. Just do it. That's what I say.
So I would be surprised if, that happened. But
you're gonna.
I guess we're at the point now where we're kind of going to go. We're just going to have like announcement after announcement whether they're allowing people to do this or not, to open up.
How many or whatever they're going to do. Definitely. I mean, isn't it terrible for Tom Brady? Think about it. He just got that. He went down to Tampa, and Tampa is wide open, but they're not going to have fans there. I know they're not going to. I mean, it would be great to see them just sell season tickets right now. Just say, the heck with what everybody else is doing. We'll handle it. We'll sell season tickets right now. Let's do it.
I was just shocked, like I said, at how many people were like up in arms, like, oh, I can't go. When did you? Has anyone followed my man Robert? Robert's been telling people he ain't going to games for months on Facebook.
That's right. With no fans, he ain't going.
Robert is on the record saying he's not going to a baseball game until the fans are allowed to go to a baseball game.
Yeah.
So Robert was not surprised when Philly said no fans. I think he's just, but everybody else was. So
did he say he's going to Puerto Rico to the Puerto Rican games or something? He said he was
going to watch the Puerto Rican games.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still playing, so I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Why not watch it? I mean, got to watch something.
I thought people
that stay up and watch the Korean baseball.
I thought he was personally going down there to watch the game.
He might be. I'll have to get clarification on that. I got to find out. So one other football note, and then we'll turn the page to some other stuff. So the NFLPA is seeking clauses in the they're trying to work this thing. You had to be, as long as it doesn't get to where baseball was, where they're going back and forth like a bunch of babies in the media. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. So here's what they're looking for. This is the request they sent to the league. They want an opt-out clause for at-risk players to receive salary if they decide not to play. Not bonus. I don't know if that one's going to fly. I mean, so player sits home, you're going to pay him his whole what? If I was Dak Prescott, I'd be like, I'm going to sit home. I'll take my 31.
Well, it's $250,000, Jim, to all the players who show up. And if they shut down during the season, it's $500,000 per player. So that's what they're asking for. Yeah, that's what I read. It's $250,000 to all players who show up.
Well, so you want additional money.
Well, if this closes down, right? This is what they're saying. If this season gets wiped out because of the corona, this is how I read it anyway. The opt-out
money per game, regardless. Because I was going to say, yeah, but what if they play 4 games? If I'm like Patrick Mahomes, I make a lot more than $250,000 a game. I don't want $250,000. I want what I get per game for 4 games.
There's more players out there, Jim, that don't get these big contracts and are making a minimum salary. Yeah, more than that.
This is asking for players who opt out and don't play to get paid.
Right. But it's not their full salary.
I don't know if the NFL is going to go for that.
They're not going to go for that. Why should they?
Let me read the rest of these. So An opt-out clause for players with at-risk families to earn an accrued season and benefits if they decide not to. If they decide not to play, I have no problem with them still receiving benefits. I mean, please let these guys go get tested and not have to pay for it. An opt-out clause for players who leave the team after reporting. Yeah. I saw you got a $250,000 stipend guaranteed to all players if they show up and everything is shut down. I'm okay with that. I mean, you're still paying, like I said, Mahomes and other guys a lot less money than if you would. The league's June 7th. So they say high-risk individuals is what they want this for. African-American, Hispanic, or Pacific Islander, BMI 28, sleep apnea, hypertension, altered immunity, diabetes, cardiac disease.
So 90% of them. So that's what they're looking for.
So I don't know where this is going to go. I guess football, I don't know. I'd have to look at the financials about how much football can afford to pay people if they don't play. I mean, football they're pretty rich off them TV deals. I'll tell you that.
Yes,
they're not in the situation baseball is. They got a lot of money. So how do you feel about that? I mean, would you allow players to sit out? And this, because the 250 thing is if the season gets shut down, but they want something in there that says that the players will receive their salary if they choose not to play because their family's at risk. So what I want to know is where you sit on that. Like if Dak Prescott, because we've mentioned his name so much, said, I don't want to play this year because my family's at risk, should he get his $31.5 million?
Of course not. Of course not. You're being paid for working. I know I wouldn't, if I stayed home and said I'm not working because of the corona, I would get whatever the percentage of my paycheck.
No, if you walk away, you'd get zero. You only get it if they let you go.
I'm just saying that if there was a clause with the coronavirus because people were getting laid off, or you could get unemployment, but you're still getting a percentage. You're not getting the whole
60% you get.
Yeah, maybe 30. I mean,
60% in this state. I don't know.
Well, I bet that's changed from state to state. But anyway, I mean, the state unemployment gives you a percentage, even if you were fired, and you got to be fired. You can't just quit. So as you said, if I said I'm just not showing up because I'm afraid my wife will get sick, they would say, okay, have a good life, man. See you later. They're not going to give me no money for that. So, I mean, they're a union. That's what they do. They bargain for your players. And I think what baseball, if they choose to sit out, they're not getting paid, right? That's the way baseball is. Am I right what I'm saying there? So
baseball, if they don't play, they don't get paid.
So there you go. I mean, and that's twice as powerful as the football union. So if I was the NFL owners, if you choose not to play because of what your race is or because you feel is well,
I just don't want to see this turn into a baseball thing.
Right.
Every day we're reporting something new. Oh, the NFL proposes this. Oh, the NFLPA counters and says, well, we only want to play 11 games. Oh, the NFL counters and says you'll play 16 or we won't play. Oh, the NFLPA counters and says we want to play 5 games.
Right.
I don't want to go through another baseball thing
right.
Every day and night on this. They've so far football's been pretty organized. I mean, they're pretty tight on this. I don't think it hurts the NFLPA to ask. I just wonder what their response will be when the NFL says no.
Well, I don't. What are they going to say? I mean, the NFL, the union, and for the most part, and the owners have pretty much worked together. Some things the players got, some things the owners got, the league got. I mean, they have a pretty good relationship. Probably the only one better is the hockey union and the hockey owners. They probably have the best relationship of all the sports.
Oh, the hockey owners and the hockey players, they're all family, they're cousins, they're hanging out.
Right.
They go to Thanksgiving dinner together.
Yeah, they're paying bonuses. You want your bonus? Here's your bonus. Don't worry about it. I mean, they're pretty much together. So the NFL has always been pretty good as far as working things out. They had that one strike and that kind of blew up in the player's face. So baseball's very strong, and they couldn't get that. So I doubt very much that.
And they might say yes to some of it. I mean, I could see them saying that you could keep the benefits if you decide to stay. Someone shouldn't lose their benefits. I could see them saying that, yes, if we have to shut down the season, we could give everyone $250,000 a game. That's not that much money. I mean, for a lot of players, you're saving. A lot of players are saving.
I don't know, Jim. If you're not playing, you should. Number one, I was in the Teamsters for a few years. They have funds when you go on strike and everything that they're supposed to have put away for you, where you can live on striking and stuff like that. I don't know how they work with the NFL and stuff like that, but I mean, if you don't do your job, I'm sorry, I don't think you should get paid, and unless there's something that's off the hook that's written in your contract.
You were in the Teamsters?
Yes.
What'd you do at Hoffa?
What did we do with Hoffa? Check underneath the field in Jersey.
You saw that last movie they made about him on Netflix. You see The Irishman?
Yes.
I feel like that's exactly what happened because it came from a guy who said he did it, and it just makes sense to me because they've never been able to find the body. So putting him in burning the body, like as you do with a corpse when they pass away, that makes a lot of sense to me. That'd explain a lot.
Yeah.
Explain a lot. Because don't forget, the Giant Stadium is gone. So
yes, it is.
Didn't they look when they took it down? I think they did.
I don't know, Jim. And that's swampland. What would happen to a body if you put it in that wet?
Find the skull eventually. I mean,
I would think so. That's a lot of property.
They never find that body. So, I just want to know if you were involved.
I don't know nothing.
All right. So let's switch over let's go to basketball before we go to baseball because I only have like one thing to bring up. So the Knicks had a second interview with Jason Kidd. They came away very impressed.
Yeah.
But reports say Thibodeau is still the favorite.
Right.
I think give you as a suffering Knicks fan that I am.
Right.
I honestly want to sit here and say that I feel like I should root for one of the coaches over the other, but I don't really think it matters. Like the roster is so bad right now that this all comes down to, can you 2 years from now or 2021, when you can afford 2 max free agents again, can you finally convince 2 max free agents to come here? Because the roster's not good. Now, I'm going to say something I know means nothing to you, but the roster is so bad that I played a complete season with the roster on video game NBA 2K. Hear me out on this, okay?
Good.
And I went 20-62. I can't even win with them on a video game without manipulating the roster, which I didn't do because I wanted to be realistic. The roster is bad. And I don't know. I don't want to hire. I don't have a problem with Jason Kidd, but I don't want to hire Jason Kidd just because you think that's going to get you the Milwaukee guy, because that's not guaranteed.
No, I agree with you 100%. Talk about a long-suffering Knicks fan. I go back farther than you, my friend, back to the 70s with Earl LaPearl and Walt Frazier when they won their last championship. Listen, the Knicks, we've talked about this a little bit before. The coach, you can work with what you got, but I don't think that they should be trying to get the big free agents. I think they should be getting the players that are good, that are solid, and sign 4 of them instead of getting 2 big free agents and blowing up the rest of your roster. If they could get 4 solid players that are good defensively, that are solid scoring, that can work together good as a team, build your team. Get your team to that 500 point. Get your team to that number 16 in the playoffs. Then when a major star looks at these guys and say, hey, these guys are almost in the playoffs or they aren't in the playoffs, I'll take the chance and go play with the Knicks and maybe I can put them over the top. So I don't believe that they got to stop trying to get LeBron James. They got to stop trying to get Kevin Durant. They got to stop trying to get these players and start getting the players that are good, solid defensive team players that will give you rebounds, that will give you assists, that will give you double-digit scoring without scoring 40 points a game. Once they get that, like Brooklyn did before they got them 2 other guys, once they get a team like that, then the other big names will come.
See, the problem is, though, is that the Knicks cannot get a break to get that guy. Do you know how much better the position the Knicks would be in right now going forward if the lottery had turned out to where they could have got either Williamson or Morant?
Oh, yeah.
Those 2 are head and shoulders better than Barrett. Not knocking. Right. I like Barrett. But Barrett went to Duke, and I'm a Duke fan, so I like Barrett. But those 2 guys were the cream of the crop.
Right.
see, the reason why I'm on a different side of this than you is because I feel like they do have to go out and get the big names, because the only way you can build without the big names and win is if you win those draft lotteries. You know, if me and you were sitting here talking about the Knicks team being just as bad as they are, but I had Morant or Williamson on the team, I would feel the same way as you. You know, let's just keep bringing in some young guys, a couple more years, because the Knicks have a lot of draft picks coming up. The Knicks have multiple ones next year, multiple. And then they have multiple ones a couple years after that. The Knicks have like 7 ones in the next 4 years. So they can build, they can do it, but they have to get lucky in the lottery. They can't be going into the lottery and then pick.
Jim, they've been having top draft picks for how long now, and it still hasn't happened.
Not top.
All I'm saying, Jim, is they got some good veteran, third, even fourth players on teams right now that aren't Zion. The Pelicans had a good team. Don't think the Pelicans were garbage before he got there. They still had a decent team. They were a playoff contender, but they were better than the Knicks by far. I mean, this was a team that needed a couple guys, and they got that big draft pick. I don't care if they can invest in 4 veterans instead of two big names. If they can get 4 or 5 veterans for the same price that they can mold into a team, then maybe eventually you get that big guy, and you got the draft picks coming up. So I don't believe that if you go and get a LeBron James and something like that with a bad team, he's not going to have it anyway. You're going to have to bring other people in anyway. If you get a big guy anyway, he's not going to be happy with the team they got right now.
Right. I'm saying that those draft picks, for that to work, for what you're proposing to work,
right?
One of those draft picks, one of those lottery picks has to get us the first or second pick in the draft. We have to get some luck in the balls.
Definitely.
Because if the next couple of years, all our picks, like the 2 picks they have this year coming up in the draft, one will be lottery, the other one's going to be a little bit later. If the lottery pick, if we're projected to go, say, to have a shot at second or third or whatever it turns out to be, and we get 6th or 7th, again, it's a loss. It's a loss.
Yeah.
You need a player. I mean,
that's what I'm saying, Jim. Don't depend on that luck. I mean, if you had 4 players with the capability of R.J. Barrett. With that capability.
That's not good enough. He's just so far behind Morant and Williamson in talent. It's ridiculous.
Well, what I'm saying, if you had 4 players of that caliber, of course, he's still a young player, but of that type of caliber, that's got that kind of potential, that's something you could have a solid team with. You're not going to go win the championship, of course not. But you're going to have, it's going to be more attractive to the big names. It's going to make a bigger difference when you get that big draft player to come in. If you got a garbage team that's not playing good and is winning 20 games a year, I don't care who you draft. I don't care what big guy name you can bring in. That's not going to change a team to a playoff contender.
No, you got to have obviously stuff around him, but you have to have either that one big name guy, like the guy from Milwaukee, or you have to have that one really, really talented young player that's going to continue to grow and will make the people better around him. And you're right. The Pelicans were not as bad as the Knicks, but they weren't great either. And Wilson adds a lot to that. And we've seen what Morant has added to the team he went to. So that's the kind of player they need. So I don't know. Justin hits it on the head. He says, just like we said, no matter who the coach is, they won't win. That's why I'm not really concerned about the reports. I see them talk about Kid, but Thibodeau's the favorite. I've said I wanted Mark Jackson in the past. He's not even getting an interview.
Yeah,
I guess I'll be happy with anybody. I mean, give me Kid, give me Thibodeau. I'll be happy with it from a name standpoint, but they can only win with the talent you give them. And the Knicks don't have any. And Robert's correct too. Robert says as long as Dolan's running the team, no free agent's going to want to come here. He might be right. He might get that right on the head, because one thing about the players, they're like a fraternity. You know, the players are a fraternity, and the players do not want to see an owner who disrespects his former players, like Oprah and you and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you think the players don't side with Spike Lee over Dolan, you're crazy. They do side with Spike Lee.
Of course.
He has always been a basketball fan, and he's so close to so many basketball players, even outside the Garden.
Definitely.
You know? So, I mean, that matters to these players. So Robert hit it right on the head. Why would a top name free agent want to come here when usually these guys hit the market? There's always usually like 2 or 3 teams that can offer them close to the same amount of money.
And you saw that interview that LeBron James, when he talked about his interview with the Knicks, and said when he came there was no real basketball discussion. There was no plan in place.
No plan.
He supposedly that was the Knicks were his first choice. So of course the management affects who you get, who you pick up. But if you're going to go seriously after somebody like that, you can't have just figureheads. You can't have Phil Jackson. You know, you can't have these guys that are just figureheads. You have to get a young, aggressive manager. And I don't know if Leon Ross is the answer, the new team president. I don't know. We'll find out. But you need somebody that knows what they're doing, how to talk to players, how to bring them in, how to bring in the free agents, and what their plan is with the team.
Yeah, and you know, Kyle says he'd love to have Kenny Atkinson. I would have no problem with Kenny Atkinson either, because I don't think he ever should have been fired by the Nets because Grant wanted him gone. But the thing is, I just, from everything you read, it's down to Kidd and Thibodeau. It just sounds like it. So I mean, because Kidd's gotten a second interview, so I don't think it's going to be Kenny Atkinson. And I feel bad for Kenny Atkinson because he got a raw deal. I mean, he got thrown out of a door by a guy who's not even on the team right now.
No doubt.
So, you know, that's where we are as far as with basketball. So we have nothing new to report other than the Knicks and the net about the Nets right now. And the Knicks are still looking for a coach. And I guess they couldn't even hire one right until after the season.
So it's over. But, you know, I heard there is rumors that since the Nets are all going down, the Knicks will be put on Nets jerseys. And they will be playing for the Brooklyn Nets because they're both from New York. So we'll see how good they do.
The Knicks have to play their games too for lottery seeding.
True. That's very true.
Oh, the Nets signed Lance Thomas today. He's a former Dookie. So the Nets are right now just looking around for anybody who could still run up and down the court to get through the
game. Yeah.
And you know that it makes me wonder too, because what are they playing? They're playing 8 games, right? To finish out to see where everybody seeds. Isn't that the process? They're going through 8 games.
Right.
I just want to here because I want to get an idea of. It's very possible the Nets are going to go 0-8, if we're being honest. Now, here's the thing about the Nets: they could go 0-8 and possibly still make the playoffs because the Nets are the 7th seed, and yeah, Orlando is only a half a game behind the Nets to move up to the 7, but they're 6 games ahead of Washington, the only team that's playing in the East. They go 0-8, and if Washington goes 4-4, they still make the playoffs. So the Nets are going to probably have the worst playoff roster you've ever seen.
Yeah, they're all done
with a bunch of people who should be playing in Ice Cube's 3-on-3 baller league, and they're going to get swept by the Bucks in the first round.
Oh, easy! It should be an easy series.
Bucks are going to have a nice, easy time. Like
4-0. By 20 points each game, it'll be over. That's BP.
It's going to be – if I'm Milwaukee, I'm like, God, the first round's going to be simple. I mean,
yes, sir. No worries. Just don't get hurt. Just nobody get hurt. In fact, they may be able to beat them with their second team. Who knows?
It's probably. If I would bet you that their star player on Milwaukee, I never say his name because I can't pronounce it right, but I guarantee you he probably sits half of every game.
Yeah, once they get that lead, sit down, let the other guys go. And Milwaukee's got a good bench too. Don't be fooled. They're going to challenge for that championship. They got a heck of a bench.
They're the favorite in the East.
Yeah.
They're the number 1 seed. And says depends on what picks become because their value wasn't terrible getting back as long as they hit on them. But then again, it's the Knicks. Yeah, that's like I said. That's why I said the next 3 years for the Knicks is crucial. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty certain the Knicks have 5 first-round picks in the next 3 years.
Yeah,
they have their 3 and 2 they picked up in trade.
You know what bothers me about basketball a little bit is that I don't know if the coach or I don't know who has to say anymore. You know, you got a GM that really isn't a GM anymore because the players are recruiting themselves. You got a coach that really doesn't coach anymore because if he ticks the players off, he can be gone, or if they don't agree with him, he's gone. So I don't really know what the value of a coach or a GM is today. I mean, you got to put a presentation on, you got to handle things, but what is the value today of that, Jim? It's changed a lot. So maybe they need an old school coach in there that can get them playing basic basketball and doing the drills and working them as a team. I just don't know where the value is in that anymore in basketball.
Well, just to give you an idea for this year, the Knicks have their own one, and then they have the Clippers one, which is going to be really late, somewhere in the late 20s. All right. Then they have their two, and they have the 76ers too, which again is going to be late, but they get 4 draft picks this year. In 2021, they have their first, and they have the Clippers first again, and they have the choice to either swap picks with them or keep it. So they'll probably keep it because the Clippers are not going to be that bad. And the Clippers only get to keep the pick if they finish in the top 4 picks, then it's protected. But the Clippers, with Kawhi and Leonard and all them, they're not going to be in the top 4. And then they have the Mavericks first round pick next year from the trade with Porzingis and Hardaway and all that. And then they have 3 second round picks next year. So in the next 2 years, the Knicks have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 draft picks in the next 2 years. Now you could say, second round picks are not worth that much. You need to have a strong draft the next 2 years.
Yeah, and there's no basketball, and there's no college basketball this year. So
there'll be college basketball.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't think so. We'll see.
Division. Just in division, like football, just in conference.
You think so? It's gonna be hard to really evaluate players like they were able to. So it's just interesting to me all the way around.
It is very interesting, very interesting. So let's turn to some potentially good news in baseball. Didn't know if it was going to be good news. So yesterday, all the excitement I had for baseball season almost crashed in an instant.
Right.
Jacob deGrom threw a simulated game against his own team, and after 1 inning, he had back tightness and came out. Right. Now, when I first heard this, I literally almost cried because I feel like we're just the bad news bears who just can't get out of our way. We finally have a good team, a playoff caliber team, and deGrom gets hurt. Now, as depressed as I was yesterday, we got a little bit of good news today. We don't know.
You found Cano?
No, I don't. No. Cano.
You didn't find Cano?
Cano is way gone. Cano is in Robert's basement somewhere. Robert kidnapped Cano, I think.
I'm starting to get worried about that guy. What happens if something really happened to Cano? What happens if his life was taken or something?
I don't think he's that kind of missing. I think he's just not at camp. I don't think it's one of those things where the Mets haven't heard from him. I mean,
you sure? Because I'm getting worried. I'm
not 100% sure, but I feel pretty good about it. So deGrom went for an MRI today, and it came back clean. That's the good news. The only thing they don't know is if he'll be ready for opening day now.
Right.
He might have to pitch game 2 or game 3 or game 4 or whatever, which I guess if he only misses a day, he's still pitching every 5th day. As long as he gets in those first 4 games, he's normally there. Oh, Justin's saying Cano was there today, so I haven't seen it. I mean, I put out a Where's Waldo APB on it. Nobody.
Yes, I mean, I was actually looking. I was going up and down the street, and I was checking to see if he was anywhere around.
I'm surprised that's not breaking news that Cano showed up to camp. Can you confirm that, Justin? Can you tell me where you heard this from? Like what site, so I can go read it. But deGrom, what worries me about this is this. The MRI comes back clean, but I'm one of those people who believe that you don't get pain just for nothing. So what is wrong with his back?
And the back is the hardest thing for people to figure out. I mean, muscles are crazy in the back. The tendons are crazy in the back. I mean, it's so hard. When you get a bad back, Jim, it can linger on for so long. I mean, you got to be if he starts the 2nd, 3rd, 4th game, you got to be happy. I mean, you still got to be happy because if it's that bad that they pulled him, and of course they're going to be cautious with him right now. That's your ace. So anything that bothers them, they're gonna pull him out and see what's up with him. So the MRI came back good. It's nothing to do with his spine. nothing to do with any. They would have known that. So it's got to be a muscle. But I'm telling you, if you have a bad back, I don't know if you've ever had one.
Usually as a pitcher, well, yeah, I have a bad back. That's why I'm a big guy. That's what Peanuts does. It gives you a
I mean, I've been hurt playing ball before with a bad back, and it took. I had hurt all year. I had to put up with it, and of course, you're not 100%. And as you say, pitching the back, the hips, all that stuff is very important. It's a good thing it's not the spine. If it was a spine, you'd be.
Well, the only good news is that there's just day to day. And like I said, even if he doesn't start opening day and Stroman has to do it, which is perfectly fine. Right. And he pitches, as long as he pitches in that first run through the rotation, then he doesn't miss any starts. Then he pitches the same amount of starts if he pitched opening day. I start to get concerned if he gets 2 less starts because he misses a couple weeks. I know it's pretty certain he's not going to pitch now against the inter-squad game against the Yankees.
Right.
No big deal anyway, because Cashman announced today that they're not going to pitch Garrett Cole like they were supposed to in that series. They're going to give him the extra day of rest. So we'll see what happens. What worries me, and we talked about this the other day, is when this is what I'm talking about. The Mets don't have the depth. And I'll get to Justin's comment about Cano in a minute and CGI effects and stuff in case that's going on. But the Mets do not have the backups to lose a starter, because you read the article and they say, well, if he can't go the first week, Corey Oswald's another pitcher who could take his spot, or Walter Lockett. Corey Oswald and Walker Lockett, no, come on. What is Corey Oswald? We've seen enough of Corey Oswald and Walter Lockett to know that they're not a solution.
Yeah, they're not your ace. That's for sure. I mean,
they're not anything. They're not all 5.
That doesn't even make sense. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Pitch enough. We know. Yeah. This isn't a mystery. I'd rather put Cano on the mound.
Why not? Maybe that's what he was working on, his pitching. We don't know. So.
They're not.
You're not going to pitch him. We're not going to pitch. Of course, we're not pitching Cole in exhibition. Who would do that? I mean, you're gonna. We
were gonna pitch deGrom.
I don't know why. Why would you do
that? If this was a regular spring training, Cole would pitch against us if we fell on his day.
Definitely. You got 60 games. If somebody gets hurt right away, you're done. I mean, you get your aces hurt right away, you're pretty much done. I'd rather take a chance to let him get hurt in the first game than pitching him in exhibition and have him out for 30 days or 40.
Pitcher with all the mechanics and stuff. A pitcher can get hurt just throwing a bullpen session.
I mean, you could pull your back sneezing, Jim. But I'm saying, if you got control over this, why would you even put that in jeopardy?
Well, I was upset. He's going to give him an extra day of rest.
I was upset when they had Tanaka out there pitching the stand. That's ridiculous to me. I don't know why they did that.
Anyone pitch the stand?
I just don't get that. I mean, why would you put your pitcher going against live batters right away, and why don't you bring him in slow and wait for the first game if you got it, for God's sakes? I don't care. This is too important in 60 days, Brent.
Could you imagine if Stanton had hit Cole? Oh boy!
What do you mean? Could you imagine?
Fans would have wanted him out of town.
Definitely.
It would have been brutal. I wouldn't even be able to look on Facebook. They would have been tearing him up.
Oh, no doubt.
It says to me that there are videos of Cano at camp yesterday, which I did not see were on the internet. So I have to ask Justin, are we absolutely positive that Martin Scorsese didn't shoot these videos? There's no CGI involved?
Yeah, man. I mean, they do have they do have body doubles. They really do. I've seen it a lot. So, I mean, I haven't seen nothing on it either, and I follow it pretty well. So,
does anyone know where he was?
Well, even Robert said that he did report yesterday, but I don't know, man. I've been looking for him, and I haven't found him yet.
Oh wait, let me see. Let me read. So he is back, according to our friends Robert and Justin.
Yeah.
Well, let me see what it says. Call off the search party. Luis Rojas said they still call Robinson Cano his star second baseman. I love you, Robbie. I need a star effort this year. Okay, buddy? I need a star effort from you this year. Really bad, especially because, Matty Ice was talking a lot of junk. So, he's back. Seems to be all as well. They're not talking about where he was.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you he wasn't with me.
I can't say nothing, Jimmy.
A lot of secrets. Back, he's working out. I don't care if he misses days. Cano did not speak to the media on the first day. Well, that's not a surprise. So the only two people missing are Brad Brock and Jared Hughes.
Right? You guys are set. The Groms are right. You guys are ready to go. Don't go into conniption mode.
Yeah, but this is the problem I have. This is the problem. This is what gets me about the Mets. And Kyle's with me about pitching anybody but Corey Oswald. This is my problem with the Mets. Brad Brock and Jared Hughes are two people in a position to both be in the bullpen this year. Right? I can promise you, this is the difference between the Yankees and the Mets, and this is what frustrates me as being a Met fan. I promise you that if two Yankee relievers were missing right now or not in camp, Brian Cashman would not only know where they are, he would know when they're coming back.
Right.
He would tell you we expect to have them back at the end of the week, or he would say something like, oh, they might be back. They'll either be back Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
Why is it the Mets have no idea when Brock and Hughes are coming to camp? Why are we always run the team like this? What do you mean you have no idea? They're your employees. Where are they? Are they at Great Adventure? Are they at Disney? How do you not have a clue when they're coming back? And this is what frustrates me about being a Met fan. And whoever comes in and buys this team, clean the whole front office out. And I'm not just talking about Brody, Omar, all of them. Dump them all, because somebody needs to start taking responsibility for where these guys are. I'm not upset that they're not here, because I'm sure they have a reason. But how do you not know when they'll be here or if they'll be here?
Well, the only thing I could say is maybe they have the corona, and as they say, you're not supposed to give out the information of the players' names unless they agree to it. And that's the only thing I can think of, Jim. But I agree with you. I mean, even saying that, 2 weeks from now they're going to be back. I mean, you don't have to even give a reason. You don't have to give a name. I mean, there is things you can say to
we hope to have them back in a week.
Right, anything. I think they were with Cano, and I think they're asking Cano right now where they are. And I know you're frustrated. I'm making fun of it, but I agree with you. And that's what happens when somebody, not only do you have a bad owner for so many years, but now he's selling the team. So I don't think a lot of people are doing their job the way they should be doing.
Well, I don't want to rush to judgment on where Cano was, because I don't know. And I would hate to sit here and tear into Cano and then find out later that something serious happened.
Right, so that happens
right now. Right. Coronavirus, a family member had it, a child has it. You have no idea. So I'm not going to cut into him right now. I'm not going to jump on Cano, because there's a lot of stuff going on in life right now. And listen, at least he showed up. There are 12 players or 13 players who have already opted out. So at least they're here to play ball. I don't know. But that doesn't frustrate me. It just frustrates me when you don't have an answer. Like, you don't have an answer on where these guys are. You can't track down, with the way social media say, your employees.
Right. And you shouldn't have to, through social media, track them down. You should know where they're at all times.
I found Brad Brock's Facebook page right now. I could tell you where he is.
That might be true.
On a beach or something. I mean,
that might be true.
The Mets, though, this is the problem. They're always run second rate.
I feel your pain, my friend. What can I tell you? Listen.
The young kid has to dodge bullets and ask these questions and give answers to make him look bad. They said he had no answer on when to expect them to join the team. He
may want to go back on the yacht, Jim. He might want to go back on that yacht, go back out to sea for a while. Listen, I agree, and he's going to be in a bad position. The players are going to be, especially with the sale coming up, Jim. I mean, your team wasn't run great before. It's going to be garbage until they're bought. You watch; it's going to be even worse.
I mean, it's just bad. It's bad. So that's the Mets situation. That's your Mets news and notes for today. We covered Cano. We covered Brad Brock just had twins. Okay, so Justin knows more than the coach of the Mets.
Right.
You don't think that's a problem?
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. So maybe
I can call Justin and get more information on Met players than I can get from Brody Van Wagenen. That concerns me. No disrespect to Justin, but he's getting paid $3 million a year to tell me where Brad Brock is.
And it's not like it's a bad thing, right? Congratulations, the guy just had twins. It's not like you're gonna not tell us that. You know what I mean? So that's just
let's hide that he had twins.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that. I mean, congratulations, Brad Brock, on the Twins. My insider Justin Thomas, who works for free for the Mets, just found you. Well, Brody Van Wagenen has no clue where you are. So let's bring up some Yankee news and notes today. So look, like the Yankees are closing in on trying to find a way to come to a mutual understanding with J.A. Happ on the vesting option they have for next year. So I guess because of the fact that obviously the vesting option would be triggered by playing time, that obviously is not going to be hit because of the new amount of games. So they're trying to lower that a little bit. I think the Yankees really want to bring J.A. Happ back. So I think they want to make this a vesting option that he can hit, because the price is set. If he hits it, what he gets paid is set. It's not negotiable. They would get him back for 1 year. Severino's not going to be ready for the start of the year. Now, I know it's going to happen. This happens every year. We're going to get in February, and all the newspapers are going to start telling us how, there's a chance Syndergaard and Severino will be ready. No, they won't. All right? We hear this every year about people that get Tommy John. It's a year and a half. We'll see you at in June. Right. So he's not going to be back. Who knows what's going to happen to Herman? Is he the same pitcher that he was last year, or does the suspension and the problems with the law, does that affect him? It's smart on the Yankees to restructure this in a way where they can get Happ back at a decent price for 1 more year. You got to agree with that. I mean,
I mean, Happ's not an ace. He's not even a number 2, but he is a steady pitcher, and he can give you 6-7 innings sometimes at his best. $17 million isn't that bad. I mean, depending on what happens with the negotiations next year. I don't know. He's excluded from some kind of provision that I was reading as far as the innings reached and stuff like that. That was according to Joel Sherman. So it looks like they're going to rearrange the back end of his contract, or they may negotiate a new contract, Jim. So what Sherman is saying is that they may have to rearrange the back end of his contract.
Well, they have no choice because everything changed out. So I would make it to where he can hit it. The Yankees need the depth next year. Otherwise, you're putting a lot of stock in a lot of kids from AAA coming up and doing something big, and you don't know what's going to happen with that. There's always question marks. I mean, they don't have an arm in the minor leagues like a Nate Pearson from Toronto or a Michael Kopech from the White Sox. Those are elite. The Yankees arms might be good, but they're not to that level. You don't know what you're going to get. In other news, Tanaka, he's still day-to-day. They're not even sure when he's going to be back. I'm not 100% sure what the holdup is. I mean, I see him on the field working out. I see him running. I see him doing stuff. But I guess he hasn't done a bullpen session or faced live hitters yet. I mean, if Tanaka misses like 2 or 3 starts because of this, they don't like Stanton now. And now you're taking a rotation that has problems to begin with because of the fact that you don't have Severino, you don't have Herman. I mean, normally we would just be sitting here saying, 2 or 3 starts, he'll be fine. He's still going to make 29 starts. 2 or 3 starts is a third of them almost.
That's true. That's true. I mean, listen, Jim, he says he's feeling better. They're doing light workouts, so they're going to be careful with him. Of course, he's the number 2 right now in our rotation, so they're going to be careful with him. They got time. I don't know. Hopefully, he does start pitching to live hitters as long as Stanton isn't involved anywhere with the live hitters. I hope he doesn't pitch to Stanton again. But I mean,
I don't think anyone should pitch to Stanton anymore.
So I mean, listen, Tanaka will be fine. I think it's a mild concussion. I don't see that preventing him from starting the year. So,
well, the one thing they're saying they're thinking about doing is and this would make perfect sense, is as long as he's in your rotation, it doesn't matter right now where he starts. And with the day off, they don't need a 5th starter until the Yankees play on the 23rd. With the day they're off on the 24th. So one of their 7 days off come right after the 23rd. And then they don't need a 5th starter until July 28th. So they're trying to see if they're optimistic that they could probably get him in there as the number 5 on the time through. So he'll just be the number 5 all season, basically.
Well, I remember when teams used to use a 4-man rotation anyway. So, I mean, the 5-man rotation is not that's the way it's been all the time. There used to be a 4-man rotation, and you could still use a 4-man rotation today as long as you got the good bullpen. So I'm not really worried about it, Jim. You know
Well, there also used to be a time when, pitchers didn't get taken out after 95 pitches. So, I mean,
that's the truth.
A lot of things have changed.
That's true, but still.
I mean, these guys used to go. There used to be starting pitchers who went out through 150 pitches, took one day off, and came out again. So
that's the truth. That's the truth. And I mean, I don't know if I agree with all the pitch counts and all that stuff now, anyway. But it is what it is. And I'm not worried about Kanaka right now. I think we got a good bullpen. 4 games a rotation for a little while. If he can't start, is not going to hurt us. So I'm pretty optimistic about Tanaka.
Well, Justin, who continues to make the Mets PR department look bad, just said that Brock was also just put on IL. So Justin knows a lot more than the coach. I can tell you.
Maybe he works for the Mets. Maybe he does. We don't know.
No, I think by now he would have came forward to contribute as an insider now. Don't you think so?
I don't know. I think Justin seems pretty laid back and quiet, and he just throws things out there, and we'll see what happens with Justin. Right. I think he could have a heck of a job with the Mets right now. That's for sure.
Well, every job's up in the air when they sell, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Mac is overconfident, as Robert says. Mac's overconfident. He's a Yankee fan. Yankee fans are always overconfident. I mean,
never overconfident. I just see what I see as far as the team goes. I mean, I've already said the Yankees starting lineup pitching is very average, and even with deGrom, that's my biggest worry about the Yankees. It's been my biggest working with the Yankees for a long time now. So I just think Tanaka will be fine.
I think Tanaka will be. I think though, if he doesn't start the second game, it's the same thing I said with deGrom. As long as you're in that first 5, it's all good. If you're in that 5-man rotation, it's all good. Some other sports news in the baseball world I want to talk to you about. Yasiel Puig signed with the Braves.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay, so only thing Puig has to do this year is not attack anyone because it's an automatic.
I don't know if that's possible. We'll see. I mean,
that's a good signing for the Braves. I mean, say what you want. He isn't the guy that came up with LA when he first came up, but he still hit 22 home runs last year. He still had 61 RBIs in 100 games. He still hit 252. It's not bad. And he went to Cleveland and hit 297 with a couple home runs and 23 RBIs. So he almost had 100 RBIs for the season. He had 24 home runs. Adds depth, and they needed it because Nick Markakis said he's not playing. So
not only that, I mean, the DH rules in this year, right? So for the National League, so I mean that's a great signing. I imagine he could still play a little outfield. So I mean, listen, like you said, depth, good DH hitter, that helped the Braves out a lot.
A lot of people pick a lot of what's that word? A lot of people on other sports sites have said that they feel that the Braves are the team to beat in the East, and they could be. I mean, the Braves are really talented. The Braves also announced that opening day against the Mets, they're pitching Mike Soroka, who will be the youngest starting pitcher to ever make an opening day start.
I love stuff like that. I love it when they bring up the young guys.
He pitched last year.
Yeah, but I'm saying I love when they bring up the young guys and put them right out there. I know he pitched last year, but this is a big deal, Jim. This is giving him opening day. So I mean, I love when they go through and they bring the young players out and give them a shot instead of like veterans that you sign that are going to pitch 5 innings and maybe you win, maybe you lose, maybe that. I like the youth when they bring them up.
He's definitely the best starter on their team. Yeah. He was pretty lights out last year. Matt says he thinks they'll be in the World Series. I disagree. I think the Dodgers are the team to beat by far. I think that, I know you got to look at Matt. You might want to go take a look at the Dodgers roster because the Dodgers are stacked. Yeah. So the MLB released their top 10 bullpens for 2020.
Okay.
You want to try to guess where you think the Yankees were?
I think they're probably number 3.
They were number 1.
Wow.
They were number 1. Wow. Yankees were number 1. let's see. It says among relievers. Yeah, the Yankees are rated number 1. They mentioned Chapman, Britton, Ottavino, Canley. Number 2 was the Padres. You got to remember the Padres had the best closer in the league last year.
Yep.
Kirby Yates, and he's back. He was lights out. Number 3 was the Brewers. Now, what's shocking on this list, I wasn't shocked that the Yankees were there. There are 2 things about this list that shocked me.
Okay.
The first one being that I almost certain if I was sitting down and making a bullpen list, the Dodgers would have been either 1 or 2.
That's what I thought. I thought the Dodgers.
Fine.
Wow. I thought the Dodgers were 1, and I was going Padres.
The Dodgers.
I was going Padres too, then the Yankees. That's awesome. I mean, I don't know.
But I'm going to give you the second most shocking thing about the top 10 list.
Don't tell me the Mets are in there.
The Mets are somehow in it. They're 7.
See, you're all worried.
7. No, I'm still worried. I mean, you have because of
what, Jim? You're froze on us, guy. So you're going to say that the Mets last year had problems with a lot of their saves and they lost a lot of games by saves. But if you go back 2 years, those relief pitchers that you had last year were really, really good. They just can't repeat.
That's my point. That's my point, Mac, is that outside of Lugo, you're putting the Mets in the top 10 based on 3 question marks because they mentioned 4 pitchers on each list. Right. Diaz, Betances, and Familia are all question marks. Betances for health, Diaz and Familia because last year they looked like they forgot how to pitch. So that's very high because I'm going to tell you right now, if the Mets starting rotation stays healthy for the season and the Mets bullpen pitches anywhere remotely close to the 7th best bullpen in the league, the Mets are going far in the playoffs.
You got a shot, definitely.
Because I have the Mets bullpen ranked in the bottom 5 in the league, and they put them 7th. So, if that happens, you better look out. Because if the Mets bullpen pitches like a top 10 bullpen and deGrom stays healthy and the rest of the stars, I'll repeat it again. I don't care if I repeat myself. The Mets will have a shot at the World Series. Their bullpen better not be that good.
Hey, listen, I still think they got a shot at the World Series and a legitimate shot, Jim. I think if the bullpen pitches like these pitchers pitched 2 years ago, good position players, good bench, good starting pitching, you guys got a solid team. I don't care what it says on paper for anybody else. When it gets to that point in the season when you're in the playoffs, papers go out the window. They go right out the window. It's all now becomes about grit, determination, and how you play in big games. And I'm telling you, I think the Mets have a legitimate shot.
Well, Robert says he expects Edwin Sugar Diaz to be the one we got from Seattle. From your mouth, Roberts, to God's ears, my friend. From your mouth, we need him to be. He's filthy when he's on. So some other news, Justin Verlander is making his 12th opening day start. The Astros announced. Phenomenal pitcher. Going to the Hall of Fame. He got to marry Kate, what's her name? The model. I forgot her last name for some reason.
Kate Jackson.
I was going to say Hudson, but Upton. Right. Kate Upton. She's mute. I'm telling you. So lucky guy. So whatever. So he's going to make his 12th start. That's pretty impressive. 12 open starts. I would love to know where that ranks all time. Like who's made the most opening day starts. That's what I would like to know. Let me see. So it says last year, Verlander became the 14th pitcher in history. Wow, 14. To record 11 opening day starts. 14. Wow, only four. That many have done that 11 times? I would think back to the old days, the same guy used to do that all the time, right?
Oh, yeah, and they stay with their team a lot, too. Well, you don't even have to stay with your team, right? It's just saying 14 starts, so it's not out for one particular team. So a lot of them pitchers went through years and years in baseball back then. So I can imagine there are quite a few that.
Well, just to give you a little stats on our man Verlander, he led the major leagues last year in batting average against 172, which was the seventh lowest in baseball since 1900.
Unbelievable.
So he led the league in wins, innings pitched, and he was second behind Garrett Cole in ERA in the AL. And he reached 3,000 strikeouts and threw his 3rd career no-hitter. Basically, because I'm looking at a comparison, Justin Verlander outpitched Garrett Cole last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Stats than Cole outside of ERA, and their ERAs were close enough that it wasn't even a difference. I mean, Justin Verlander is one of those rare guys that even though he was good for a long time, usually you see that pitcher, they hit 34, 35, they start to slow down. He's continued to get better. I mean, he struck out 300 batters for the first time at age 37.
Wow.
7.
Yeah, they used to say people that did that got better as they got older and struck out more batters as they got older. They used to say they were on the juice. So
he might be. You're talking about garbage cans. You might want to.
Yeah, man.
But he's an amazing pitcher. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No doubt.
For sure. And congrats to him on his 12th straight start, which, if he starts a few more years, starting in the number 1 spot, he's going to move up into the top 5 in history in that category, because that's quite a history. So, like we said, we touched base already on deGrom and his injuries. Aaron Judge, he's back in the lineup. He had a bomb yesterday. He looks like he's good to go. I don't know why anyone thought he wasn't going to be ready to go. I didn't have any worry. Did you have any worry that he wasn't going to be ready to go?
I wasn't worried at all about it.
I wasn't ready to that. Anthony Rizzo, another big name. He has rib inflammation in his left side. Big deal for them. Anthony Rizzo is a big-time talent. The last thing the Cubs need. I mean, that's the thing is, like, I feel like right now, every little nagging injury, you got to blow up. Because 3 weeks of a season, you miss a star, that you could be done.
No doubt.
Everything's bigger than it is.
Especially on teams that aren't as stacked as some of the other ones. I mean, the teams that have a good ball club and a couple stars that are going to be competing, they lose that star. It's going to affect them.
And the Cubs are a team. The Cubs are a team that are going to be there, or supposed to be there. And they asked manager Dave Ross, and he said there's a chance he might need to open the season on the injured list. And a normal season, we're not blowing it up. We're just like, but this year, every injury, every little nagging injury means a lot more.
Yeah, no doubt, Jim. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. Byron Buxton, who really needs to have a big year with the bat. He's got a foot sprain. Minnesota doesn't know. He's day-to-day. They don't know what's going to happen with him. Colin McHugh, the Redskins, I think, are going to be bad this year. Colin McHugh, who the Redskins added to hope to be some starting pitching depth, he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. I got to be honest with you. I don't know how the Red Sox fell so fast.
Oh, okay. First, just to say something, you said Redskins, and I'm like, when did the Redskins?
Oh, my Lord. That's because I read reports about the Redskins around the clock. It's like
the Redskins left football. They said, the heck with football. We're playing in baseball. The heck with all you.
Keep the name there. I don't know. All I see on social media all day is pictures of what's going on in Washington.
I know.
Completely lost track. But
I wasn't sure if you went to Cincinnati Reds or the Red Sox.
The Red Sox. Like, can someone explain to me why they moved Mookie Betts and then they're just falling apart? I'm telling you, don't be surprised if the Red Sox finish 4th in the AL East this year, because they're not as good as the Yankees. They're not as good as Tampa. And I'm honestly, with all the young guns coming up in Toronto, I'm not as sure if they're good as Toronto.
Yeah, I think they're going to have off year too. I think that
they're only better than Baltimore, and that's not saying much.
Yeah, I think they have an off year this year. I don't know how I really haven't looked at their pitching to see how good their pitching is this year, but the Red Sox have always been a lunch pail team. I'm a big Yankee fan. It's our biggest rival. I mean, there's a lot of Red Sox fans that hate the Yankees. The Yankees hate the Red Sox. I never hated the Red Sox.
What makes the rivalry great?
Yeah. I always thought that they were a lunch bucket team and that they came there and they always played hard. You know what I mean? They always played hard. They had stars too. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they were not. I don't know, Yastrzemski, Fisk, all the way up to to Pedro Martinez and that bunch they had there. They were always seemed to have fun. Always seemed to enjoy playing the game, and they always played the game hard. But I don't know about this year, Jim. I haven't looked at their pitching, and that may be the only thing they have going for them this year. But I don't think they're going to be doing that well this year.
What do you think about – I want to switch back to football for a minute, if that's okay. What do you think about this development in Buffalo? So Buffalo had a sponsorship agreement for their stadium with a New Era Cap Company. And then the New Era Cap Company Everybody knows them if you wear hats. They've asked to get out of that contract, and they're negotiating right now to let him out. So, New Era is founded in 1920 in Buffalo.
Right.
It has remained as the brand has grown into the billion-dollar business. They've been an exclusive provider for all the sports teams. They came under fire last week when he said he would no longer when County Executive Mark Palance said he'd no longer call the Bills Stadium by name after the company decided to lay off 117 people, nearly 1/3 of its Buffalo workforce. What do you think about that?
So it was the government official that started this whole thing because he laid off people. Is that what that's all about?
No, according to this, I'm guessing that 117 people were laid off from New Era, which is a company in Buffalo. And because of that, the Erie County executive said that they would no longer call the stadium, which I guess he has control over this, by the name of the company. So now they're in ties.
So again, this official that because the company laid off people, turns around and says, we're not going to call you by that name. I mean, what does it have to do with the Buffalo Bills ownership or management?
This is what he says. The government official said their name should no longer be on the stadium if they're going to continue to lay off our employees and say sorry. So he's speaking for Buffalo. I'd rather see the stadium called Veterans Stadium than New Era. I won't even use that name. I'll still call it Ralph Wilson Stadium. I'm a little disappointed in the way New Era has treated our community. That company would not exist without the hard work of the people in this community.
Wow. So what do the Buffalo Bills fans feel about that? I hate people that talk for people.
Do you think the Buffalo Bills let me ask you, as a Giants, Jets, do you care what they call the stadium? Honestly?
Not at all. But if it's going to affect the person who's paying the bills for the stadium is sponsoring the team and all that stuff, and they say we're gone, and they've been there since the 1920s. And I mean, what gives these people, big companies or organizations or government officials, what gives them the right to tell you what you can do with your team? It rubs me so wrong, Jim, man. I think that why doesn't the fans have something to say about if they can, about what the name is, about what the name of the stadium is, what the name of the team is? Why can't they? Who are these people to tell you?
I cannot explain how anything works these days, honestly, because it's so out of whack. I don't know.
I don't understand it.
Maybe he's a part. I don't know how that. In Green Bay, how all the people own the pack. Right. Maybe there's something going on in Buffalo with a part of that like that. But the way he said it sounded like it was a done deal. It didn't sound like speaking like he didn't know.
Right. And I mean, but is this the reason why this company is renegotiating, trying to get out? Because this one official says, I represent Buffalo, that, we don't want to call it by your name, and we don't need you, and you've disgraced Buffalo. I mean,
sounds like an overreaction considering that. What do you expect? There's a COVID thing going around. I mean, what do you expect? Do you think so many people right now unemployed, trying to pay their bills? You think they have time to go out and buy hats? I mean, companies are losing money, so New Era needs to. I don't want to see anyone get laid off, but New Era's got to keep the company afloat. Would you rather that New Era just said, well, we'll close?
And you know something, and the thing about stuff like this is people don't take into account. It's not just the business itself. It's the businesses they're dealing with, the people that provide the material, that provide the machines, that provide all these businesses are hurting. My sister works for a big company, and it's not the company that's going under. It's the other companies they're dependent on to stock them, to bring them products. And they're having hard times, so they can't pay their bills. They can't make money, and they're laying off their own employees. It has nothing to do with her company. It has to do with all the companies that are involved with it. So there's so much behind the scenes that people don't realize.
Yeah, that's true. I got a good story for you, mainly because I want to get you a little worked up down the stretch, and because, to be honest with you, I just like being right. So that's why I'm going to bring this up. Right. So, do you remember back a little while ago when Cam Newton signed with the Patriots? We had a nice heated debate on the show how you and Matty Ice tried to tell me that Cam Newton was great, and I tried to tell you that Stidham's the quarterback and nothing about Cam Newton. Okay.
I remember that.
Today on the radio station in New England, they had Scott Zolak, who used to be a quarterback there, who still does work with the Patriots.
Yes.
He's talked to several people on the team, captains and coaches.
Right.
Based on what he's heard, he's going on record saying Stidham will start game 1.
Yeah, I heard that before.
Hold on. So I'm just bringing this up. So he says Stidham will start. He said in part because Stidham works really hard, also in part because Stidham has been around to know the system, and with the fact that Newton signed late in free agency and they're not getting to do normal activities because of the coronavirus pandemic, that Stidham knows the system better and he won't be ready. Now, if this happens, I strongly urge you and Matty Ice to take a day off. Because I will dedicate a whole show into how I told you that Stidham was the quarterback of the future. And you told me if Belichick thought he was the quarterback of the future, he wouldn't have brought in Newton. I have it recorded. I could play it, but I don't need to because you remember. I told you this was going to happen. Cam Newton is not as star-spangled awesome as everybody thinks he is. And
you're taking the word of an ex-quarterback that was no good anyway. And again, I won't
good one either, but I'm taking his word.
And I don't care what he says because Bill Belichick ain't going to tell his brother what he's going to do if he has one. He's not telling him what his quarterback decision is going to be come game time. The only thing that makes sense to me right now, Jim, is that if Stidham was the guy, they got backups right now behind him that have played before, that know the system, that already have played for Belichick in the past, behind him right now. If he was the guy, they would not have signed Cam Newton.
What about what he said? There's something to that. There's something to the fact that Cam did sign late. There are very limited activities right now. We don't even know how much activities they're going to be allowed to do to get ready for the season before the season. There's something to be said that there is the possibility that Cam, because of the limited activities with the COVID, will not be able to properly learn the system the right way in time.
Yeah, if he wasn't a veteran MVP Super Bowl quarterback, I would agree with that.
You're talking about 3 or 4 years ago. Lord.
It doesn't matter. He's still been in the league. He still knows offenses. He still knows how to read defenses. He still knows what to do with the football. I mean, if it was a younger kid that hadn't had that kind of experience, and I mean, performed at that level. I mean, it's not just he's a veteran. He performed very well at that level. If it was somebody else, I might agree with you. But when you sign Cam Newton and all you have is a quarterback that never played a regular season game, it's got to go to Cam Newton. Now, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I have no problem admitting I'm wrong. But I feel.
Let me tell you, Mr. Cam Newton was hurt last year. He played 2 games. He was 0-2. He threw an interception, no touchdowns. He had a 56 QB rating. Now, he was hurt. I already acknowledged that. My point being is that he could be rusty.
It's possible.
I mean, he's rusty as it is. The year before that, he wasn't that awesome either. Right. So, and he did play 14 games. I'm just saying.
Right, and that's, in fact, the Patriots for that one is the one who injured him with his ankle. I mean, they almost broke his ankle in half there. So, I mean, listen, I know what you're saying. He's been out of the business for a little bit. He hasn't been the Cam Newton he was 3 years ago, and I understand that too. And yeah, he's getting older. But if you got a choice between a guy, if you want a young quarterback to start, why are you bringing in a veteran that's going to challenge him? That would be the same thing as bringing a quarterback in to challenge Daniel Jones right now. That would be ridiculous. I would have to think.
All right, go ahead.
I would have to think that having a young quarterback, you wouldn't want a veteran that has accomplished so much as Cam Newton has done in camp with him right now, and you know he's going to get a shot at that starting quarterback. So Stinton can't be ready.
I just want to say that in 8 seasons, and I'm not counting last season when he was hurt. We're not counting season 9. In 8 seasons with Carolina, he only had a winning record 3 times.
But they were unbelievable winning records.
It doesn't matter. No, 15-1, 12-4, 11-5. 11-5 is a normal record for a team that wins a division. 15-1 was outstanding. Also, aside from these are all seasons where he played a minimum of 14 games. Aside from his 15-1 season, where he threw 35 touchdowns, Cam Newton never threw over 24 any other season.
Yeah.
I don't know where y'all get that he's so great. He never was.
He's not that type of quarterback, Jim. He wasn't the type of quarterback that's going to sit in the pocket like a Drew Brees or a Brady or something like that and throw the ball. That's just not him. He's more of a Jackson type quarterback where the threat of that run, and he did run with the ball a lot. He was the leading rushing quarterback at 1 year, and he was MVP. He scored a lot of touchdowns running the ball too. So that's what Cam Newton brings to the table for a football team. He's not Joe Montana. He's not Tom Brady. He's a different style quarterback, but he is a veteran.
Glad you didn't say that. Thank God.
He's a veteran. He knows the game of football. He knows how to read defenses.
I'm standing on my principles.
Go right ahead.
If he's not day one, because I didn't predict day one. I said before the season's over. Stidham will own the job before the season's over.
We'll see. I mean, hey, it's possible. I don't think so, but it's possible.
I'm sticking to it. I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
All right, sounds good. You owe me a donut if you lose.
Oh, whatever you want me to owe you, we'll figure it out.
Hey, speaking of football, real quick, John Stallworth.
Today? Oh, no birthday today?
John Stallworth, Pittsburgh Steeler receiver during them Super Bowls, one of the greatest receivers of all time. It's his birthday today. And this day in history.
Can you tell me how old he is?
No, I don't have that information on me right now. So I can't tell you how old
Stallworth you think he is.
I think he's got to be at least in his 60s. So yes. John Stallworth, Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl wide receiver.
Yeah, he's 68. All right.
This day in history, Nolan Ryan. We were talking about great pitchers. First pitcher in 2 decades to win 2 no-hitters in one season.
First pitcher in 2 decades.
At that time.
No-hitters in the same season.
And that was
throw 2 in the same season?
That was like 1971.
Didn't Verlander throw 2 in the same season?
I said this day in history.
I'm just thinking like who was the last person to do it.
No, he was. This is back. Right.
Very talented Verlander. Just saying.
Oh, unbelievable pitcher. Still.
So it looks like we're down the stretch here.
Yes.
Anyone who tuned in and was wondering about our heavyweight champion that was going to come on, we might add some technical difficulties. We're still going to work it out. We'll try to get him on at another time. Stuff happens sometimes. Yeah. Things come up in life, so we'll get him back on. But we're off the next 2 days.
Yes,
and then we're back Saturday for. We're not off. Well, not off because we all have to work and we still put time in, but to the show. But we're off as far as we won't be live.
Right.
I know the fans are clamoring for the day when we'll be live 5 days a week.
It's going to happen too. Maybe 7 days a week. Who knows?
It's coming. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
We got some great guests coming up next week. I
want to know about the Met guy. I need to nail that down.
That's Insider's coming up.
Is he confirmed now?
Well, yeah, he said he's coming on. I told you that's Wednesday. That's the 22nd.
Yeah, but in the calendar, so I don't know if he's confirmed.
Well, yeah, he's confirmed. So it's 5 o'clock. He's going to be coming there. I just got ringed on the phone on the message here. I got another guy ready to come on. We got former 3-time world champion Reggie Johnson and his heavyweight contender Eugene Mills coming on with him. I think that day, so it's going to be really good. He's 34.
We got the trainer and the boxer.
We got them both, Jim, and he's 34-2 heavyweight champion. So he's going to be challenging for the world title here.
Mac, you are just cleaning up.
Oh my God,
cleaning up. I mean, that's good.
Yes.
I love getting boxing heavyweight champs on. I'm all pros right now. I'm all pros.
I hear you.
No, I'm all positive now. So it's great. And then you got the trainer and the fighter, which is like a
right. That's right. So, and he supposedly will be coming from us from the ring, Jim. Live from the ring.
The ring on video.
On video, buddy.
Oh boy. Wow. Where are they fighting? Exciting. Where's the ring?
The ring is inside his training gym, buddy. He's sitting right there. Yeah. Maybe that.
Go ahead.
Maybe they'll be throwing a couple of punches. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I mean, so we got a lot of stuff next week. I mean, we got baseball starts next week, barring anything crazy in the next few hours, but I'm staying positive, of course. We got baseball, we got the show Saturday. We'll have lots of coverage Saturday as we get closer to opening day. We got the football Sunday. We got Reggie Johnson next week. We got our Yankee insider, Steve Samarco, next week. We got Rich next week, the Mets insider. And then the following week, we got, as I mentioned, we got hockey guys coming on. So
right.
Justin wants to know how the Rice Krispie treats my wife made were. They were excellent. Thank you, Justin. Excellent. My wife made Rice Krispie treats.
I think you got a little bit right there.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm about to have pork chops. I think we're cooking pork chops.
Even better.
It is what it is. But, it was a good week. We got some good information out there, good people coming in. And, we're pretty much, we're almost booked every day for guests. So we got a lot of things coming up and a lot of exciting things on the horizon. And there's a lot of good things are coming up for us in August. I don't want to let any cats out of the bag, but more time. You're going to see more of us as if you didn't see our faces enough. Some other things we're looking into, some other stuff coming up. August is going to be, by mid-August, you're gonna be like, wow, a lot of good stuff.
Yes.
Waking in stuff every day.
Yes.
We might even, soon Mac and I might look like we're in the same room, hopefully. That's what
it might happen. He might just move in with me. We've talked about it.
But you're probably a more affordable area than I live in.
Maybe so. A lot smaller, though, I bet.
I don't know. Condo's a condo. They're not that big.
That's true. I think you're a step up from where I'm at right now, buddy. So.
I don't know. Sometimes I wish I wouldn't in a condo. I'd rather be at least I don't have to worry about selling it.
You worry about all your neighbors either complaining with the condo group there.
They complain about everything. Not to me, not about me, but anything.
Yeah, everybody else.
Someone lets off a firework in one of the and you hear it in the distance in the condo development. They call the cops.
The alarms go off, right?
It's firework. What are you doing? What's going on here? So I guess we're done. We're out. Thanks to everyone who listened in. Apologize when we went on a little 15, 20-minute thing that got into politics. We don't really love to talk about politics, to be honest with you, but sometimes politics crosses over into sports. And if it's news, it's news. And then we got to talk about it. It's not something we want to talk about all the time because we understand this is an escape for us like it is an escape for you. But once in a while, it crosses over. Yeah. And you can't just ignore it. It is what it is. It's our jobs to report on it. So we're out. We'll see you, Justin. Get a Flyers logo. We'll see you guys next week.
Take care, guys.